Hello, welcome to this episode of our podcast. My name is Maria.
And I'm Marco. Today we begin with a fascinating topic, increasingly present in our lives. Artificial intelligence, or simply AI.
That's right. Sometimes we think of AI as something futuristic, like something out of a science fiction movie, but the truth is that we already live with it every day, almost without realizing it.
Exactly. But before we dive into examples, let's start from the beginning. What is artificial intelligence really?
Well, in simple terms, artificial intelligence is the ability of certain machines or programs to imitate human intelligence, thinking, learning, solving problems, even making decisions.
Exactly. It's not that machines are intelligent in the human sense, but they can perform tasks that traditionally required human thought.
And all of this is achieved thanks to algorithms, mathematical models, and a vast amount of data. AI learns by observing patterns and repeating processes until it becomes efficient.
To understand how we got here, we have to go back a bit. The idea of machines that think like humans has been in the collective imagination for centuries.
Yes, from ancient automatons to characters like HAL 9000 and 2001: A Space Odyssey. But the term artificial intelligence wasn't coined until 1956, during a conference at Dartmouth in the United States.
There, scientists like John McCarthy and Marvin Minsky laid the foundations for what would become one of the most revolutionary disciplines of the 21st century.
Now, how does all this work? Well, most current artificial intelligences are based on machine learning.
This means that not everything the AI is supposed to do is programmed. Instead, it is given access to a huge amount of information and trained to recognize patterns, make predictions, or make decisions.
And if we go a step further, we're talking about deep learning, which uses artificial neural networks inspired by the human brain. These networks allow information to be processed in very complex ways.
There are different types of AI depending on their level of capability. Shall we review them?
Sure. Let's start with weak AI, also called narrow AI. This is the most common. It specializes in a single task, like voice assistance, Netflix recommendations, or a customer service chatbot.
Then there's strong or general AI, which is still in development. This is an intelligence that can reason, learn, and adapt like a human being. It doesn't just perform one task, but could perform many, and even understand the context.
And finally, there's so-called superintelligent AI, which only exists in theory and science fiction. This would surpass human intelligence in every way.
And that's where the ethical and philosophical debates begin, right? But we'll leave that for another episode.
The incredible thing is that we already use AI every day. When we type on our cell phone and a word is suggested, when we ask Google Maps for directions, or even when we browse social media.
Or when we take a photo and the phone detects faces or automatically enhances the image. All of this is thanks to intelligent algorithms.
It's also revolutionizing areas like medicine with automatic diagnoses, or in agriculture, optimizing water use or preventing crop diseases.
So, although AI sounds complex, it's closer than we think. It's not just walking robots or talking computers. It's a technology that's already part of our daily lives.
And understanding it helps us not only use it better, but also prepare for the changes that are already occurring in the world of work, society, and education.
And as we always say here, The key isn't to fear technology, but to learn to live with it responsibly.
In the 1960s and 1970s, there were important advances. Programs were developed that solved logic problems, played chess, and understood basic language.
But there were also the first disappointments. Expectations were very high, and the technology wasn't yet ready. The systems were limited, slow, and didn't learn on their own. Thus came the so-called AI winter.
Yes, a period in which funding and enthusiasm were drastically reduced. But it wasn't the end, just a pause to rethink the approach.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, AI began to reemerge thanks to two key factors: the explosion of digital data and the increase in computer processing power.
And also because a new approach emerged. Instead of programming each step, machine learning began to be used, where algorithms learn from large amounts of data.
So we saw milestones like Deep Blue, the IBM computer that beat world chess champion Garry Kasparov in 1997.
And then, in 2011, Watson, another IBM AI, won the television game show Jeopardy! Against human champions. It was a key moment that showed how AI could understand complex questions and respond accurately.
But the real turning point came with deep learning. This is a type of AI that uses artificial neural networks, inspired by how the human brain works.
This enabled incredible advances in image, speech, text recognition, and more. In 2016, for example, Google's AI AlphaGo defeated the world champion in Go, a game even more complex than chess.
And that opened the door to many modern applications we use today. Automatic translators, spam filters, YouTube recommendations, and even self-driving cars like Teslas.
And of course, we have to talk about one of today's big players, ChatGPT, developed by OpenAI, a language model capable of generating text, holding conversations, writing stories, and even helping you program.
And more recently, Sora also appeared, an artificial intelligence that can generate realistic videos from descriptions. Can you imagine? It's like writing a script and watching it come to life in seconds.
AI is also found in assistants like Alexa and Siri, in audio editing tools, in photo filters, and even in medical prediction systems.
We're at a stage where AI not only assists, but also creates, proposes, analyzes. It's like having a collaborative tool that can accompany us in almost any task.
Do you have a virtual assistant at home or on your phone? Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant? They're all examples of AI.
And they don't just answer questions, they learn from you. If you ask for the weather every day at 7 a.m., they'll start suggesting it without you even asking. The more you talk to them, the better they recognize your voice.
And the best part is, they're designed to improve over time. That means the AI behind these systems learns from your habits, your language, your tastes, and your routines.
Have you ever finished a series and suddenly another one pops up that feels tailor-made for you?
Totally. Or on Spotify, when your playlist ends and it starts playing songs you've never heard before, but somehow they're exactly your style.
That's not magic. It's artificial intelligence. Recommendation systems analyze your history, your choices, what you skip, what you finish. And based on that, they predict what you'll like next.
And they don't just use your data. They also compare your behavior with that of millions of other people. That way, they find common patterns and suggest content you're likely to love.
Let's talk about social media. Did you know that every time you open Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, what you see is filtered by AI?
Yes, because the algorithms decide which post to show you first. It's not in chronological order, it's based on what you're most likely to engage with.
And they figure that out by analyzing how long you watch a video, what you like, comment on, or scroll past. All that feeds the algorithm.
This has its good side. The content feels more personalized. But it also comes with risks, like getting stuck in an information bubble.
Another everyday use of AI is translation. Have you ever used Google Translate? That's AI trained on millions of texts.
And it has improved a lot in recent years. It can even translate real-time conversations or help you with grammar. Some apps recognize what you say, process it, and translate it in seconds.
You don't even need to type anymore. You can point your phone's camera at a sign in another language and it shows the translation on top of it. Amazing, right?
Have you taken a selfie lately? Many filters on Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat use AI to detect your face and apply effects in real time.
Phone cameras also use AI to adjust lighting, focus, remove objects, enhance colors, all thanks to smart algorithms that learn what great photos look like.
Even apps like Photoshop now use AI to automatically edit backgrounds, remove people, or even generate images from scratch.
Another area where AI is very active is online shopping. If you visit an online store and then see ads for the same product on your social media, now you know who's been working: AI.
It studies your behavior, what you searched for, what you put in your cart and didn't buy, and then tries to convince you to come back.
It can also adjust prices based on demand, suggest related products, and predict what might interest you based on the season or your history.
Let's not forget spam filters. Thanks to AI, most junk emails don't even reach your inbox.
And predictive keyboards. When you're typing, and it already suggests the next word or auto-corrects your mistakes. That's AI working quietly in this background.
Also in security, facial recognition, voice or fingerprint unlocking, detection of suspicious activity. These systems learn from you and detect when something doesn't fit your usual pattern.
So with all of this, is AI good or bad?
AI, like any tool, depends on how we use it. It can make your life easier, save you time, help you learn. But it can also manipulate, distract, or trap you in a digital bubble.
The key is to stay aware. Know that AI is behind many of the things we do, and apply critical thinking when interacting with it.
And also to learn how to use it in our favor. Actively search for new things, diversify our sources of information, and step out of our digital comfort zones.
I think we've all asked ourselves this at some point. Because we're seeing such rapid advances in technology that sometimes it feels like humans are becoming dispensable.
Exactly. We hear things like AI already writes articles, AI designs, AI programs, AI answers calls. And we wonder, so what's left for us?
It's a valid concern. But there's also something important to say up front. This isn't the first time humanity has faced a technological revolution.
That's key. We saw it with the Industrial Revolution, with the arrival of computers, with the internet. And each time, while many jobs disappeared, new ones also emerged.
Let's be direct. Yes, some jobs will disappear or be radically transformed, especially those that are repetitive, routine, and predictable.
For example, cashiers, call center operators, basic administrative tasks, legal document review, inventory management. Many of these can already be handled by software or AI.
And it's not just about manual jobs. Even some creative roles like writers, translators, graphic designers are being affected by automation.
Of course, AI can generate text, images, music. But here comes the big question. Can AI truly replace human creativity or just imitate it?
As some jobs disappear, new ones appear. In fact, they're already emerging. Jobs related to the design, oversight, and improvement of AI systems.
There's growing demand for roles like AI model trainers, algorithm ethics engineers, conversational experience designers, data analysts, robotics technicians, cybersecurity specialists.
And human-centered skills are becoming more valuable than ever. Things AI can't easily replicate: empathy, ethical judgment, critical thinking, leadership, adaptability.
That means jobs in education, mental health, elder care, social innovation, human relationships. Those will remain deeply human.
So here's the big question. What can we do to stay ahead? The answer lies in something often said, but now more urgent than ever. Learning how to learn.
More than ever, education doesn't end with a diploma. We have to keep updating ourselves, stay curious, seek out new knowledge, and experiment without fear.
And we need to strengthen soft skills: communication, empathy, teamwork, critical thinking. These are what truly set us apart from machines.
And something important. It's not just about learning technology, but about working with it. Using it as a tool, not seeing it as an enemy.
This isn't just an individual responsibility. Governments, businesses, and educational systems must adapt too.
For example, companies should train their teams, reposition talent, and create space for innovation. It's not about replacing people, but transforming them through new tools.
And governments must ensure no one is left behind by offering job retraining programs, supporting vulnerable populations, and investing in modern education.
And schools, schools. They can't keep teaching like it's 50 years ago. We need to prepare citizens who are critical, creative, tech-savvy, but also deeply human.
So back to the original question. Will AI replace us? The honest answer is yes, but not entirely.
Yes, it will replace tasks, but it won't replace the human essence. It will push us to transform, to evolve, to find a new balance.
And who knows? Maybe this is a unique opportunity to refocus work on what truly matters: caring, creating, imagining, connecting.
Because ultimately, the value of human work isn't just in productivity, but in purpose.
What's interesting is that, unlike other technologies, AI is already making decisions that used to be made only by humans. Who gets hired? What news do you see? Who gets approved for a loan?
And that forces us to ask, are those decisions fair? Or are they influenced by biases we don't even understand?
Let's start with a topic that affects all of us: privacy. Every time we use an app, a social network, or a search engine, we leave behind a digital footprint.
And that information is used by algorithms to predict what we want, what we think, even what we might do. How far are we willing to give up our data in exchange for convenience?
The problem is, most of the time, we don't even know what data is being collected or how it's being used. It's all hidden in those super long privacy policies no one reads.
And then we see what has already happened. Companies selling data, manipulating information, profiling people without their consent. A nemsak, tanul, megfigyel, nyomon követ, es ostalios.
Another major ethical dilemma is algorithmic bias. What happens when AI makes discriminatory decisions?
And the worst part is that many of these biases aren't malicious, they're invisible. They're embedded in the data used to train AI. If that data reflects historical inequalities, the AI learns and repeats them.
It's already happened. For example, hiring systems that rejected resumes from women, or policing algorithms that targeted certain neighborhoods more heavily, just because old data linked them with higher crime rates.
That's where we realize AI isn't neutral, like it's a human creation. And because of that, it must be critically supervised, not blindly trusted.
Here comes a key question. If an AI makes a serious mistake, who's responsible?
Good question. The programmer, the company that deployed it, the user, or the machine? In many cases, there's no clear answer.
And that's worrying, because when no one takes responsibility, the people affected are left unprotected. How can you file a complaint if the damage was done by a faceless algorithm?
That's why many countries are discussing the need for clear laws to regulate AI use, to define responsibilities, rights, and ethical boundaries.
There are already important initiatives, like the European Union's proposed AI regulation. They're classifying AI systems based on risk level: low, medium, high, or unacceptable.
And organizations like UNESCO are promoting principles such as transparency, fairness, non-discrimination, sustainability, and the protection of human rights.
But there's still a long way to go. Technology is advancing faster than the law, and that means we must act responsibly before harm is done.
Now, some people wonder if AI can have its own ethics. Can we program values into a machine? Or is it always just an extension of our own decisions? Now, some people wonder if AI can have its own ethics. Can we program values into a machine? Or is it always just an extension of our own decisions? Now, some people wonder if AI can have its own ethics. Can we program values into a machine? Or is it always just an extension of our own decisions? Now, some people wonder if AI can have its own ethics. Can we program values into a machine? Or is it always just an extension of our own decisions?
That's being explored. Some AIs are designed to avoid harm, to detect offensive language, or to make ethical decisions. But it all depends on what humans teach them.
Now, let's talk about what art actually is. Because if we're going to ask whether AI can create art, we first need to define what we mean by creating.
Traditionally, art has been a human expression. It's about conveying emotions, ideas, worldviews. It's a blend of technique, intuition, experience, and soul, some would say.
Exactly. There's art in a painting, but also in a song, a poem, a sculpture, a play. Can an AI really replicate that emotional complexity?
And even more. Can an AI have artistic intent? Because it's one thing to generate an image, and quite another to want to communicate something profound through it.
So let's talk specifics. What can AI do today? Well, honestly, a lot.
For example, there are AIs that compose original music. Some are trained on the works of Bach, Mozart, or the Beatles. And they generate new pieces in those styles.
We also have models like DALLE or Midjourney that create images from descriptions. You type a violin-playing astronaut dog on Mars, and boom, it gives you a visual artwork in seconds.
And don't even get me started on language models that write poems, scripts, and stories. Like the one you're listening to right now, which was also created with help from an AI model.
Even in cinema, AIs are being used to generate visual effects, voices, dubbing, and even draft scripts.
Now we hit the critical question. Is that really art? Or just a soulless imitation?
That's hard to say. On one hand, the results can be beautiful, surprising, and moving. But on the other hand, we know the AI doesn't actually feel what it's doing.
It didn't suffer a loss and write a sad poem. It didn't go through heartbreak that inspired a song. It simply analyzed patterns and produced something statistically coherent.
But then again, if someone feels moved by a song created by AI, doesn't that count as art? If it touches human emotion, does it matter who or what created it?
Great question. Maybe what defines art isn't so much the creator, but how it's received by those who experience it.
Many artists today don't see AI as a threat, but as a creative tool, a kind of companion to experiment with.
Yes, some painters use AI to generate sketches, musicians create bass rhythms with generative models, and writers co-write stories with AI.
And that can open up incredible possibilities. AI can suggest things we would have never thought of. It pushes us out of our comfort zone.
We could say that AI doesn't replace human creativity, but it amplifies it. It gives us new color palettes, new instruments, new languages.
But of course, there are dilemmas. For example, if an AI generates a painting that sells for thousands of dollars, who is the author? The person who wrote the code? The one who gave the prompt? The AI itself?
The same goes for copyright. Many AIs are trained on human-made works. Is it fair for an AI to generate a song similar to an artist's and profit from it?
And there's concern about artists being replaced. What if a company prefers using AI to write jingles instead of hiring a composer?
That's where we face the eternal tension between economic logic and human value. We'll need to find new ways to appreciate art beyond mass production.
And we arrive at the big philosophical question: can an AI be creative?
Some say no, because creativity requires consciousness, intention, subjective experience. And AI has none of that.
Others argue that if we define creativity as the ability to generate something new and valuable, then yes, AI can be creative.
Maybe we need a new word, something like assisted creativity or algorithmic creativity.
Or maybe the most honest thing is to accept that we're entering a new era of art, where the human and the artificial intertwine.
So, can a machine create art? Maybe yes. But what remains unique is the story each of us tells through that art.
AI can generate a melody, but only you can decide if that melody speaks of your childhood, your dreams, or your scars.
In the end, art remains a deeply human experience. AI might be the spark, but the fire is still ours.
Marco, you've probably already heard of ChatGPT. It's a language model created by OpenAI, capable of answering questions, writing texts, translating, coding, summarizing, and much more.
But even though it feels like a conversation, ChatGPT doesn't understand like humans do. It has no consciousness, no emotions. It's a model that predicts words, as simple and as complex as that.
Exactly. It works by completing text. If you type "once upon a time," the model predicts the most likely next word, then the next, and so on, until it builds a full response.
A language model is a system trained on massive amounts of text. Books, articles, websites, conversations, all of it helps teach it how language works.
It's like giving it access to the entire library of the internet. So when you ask it a question, it looks for patterns similar to what it has already read and predicts the most coherent answer.
But keep in mind, it doesn't search Google or browse the web. Everything it says is generated in real time, based on what it learned during training.
Now here's a word you may have heard: tokens. What are they?
A token is a small unit of text. It could be a word, part of a word, or even punctuation. Models don't process full sentences. They work with text divided into these tokens.
For example, the phrase "Hi, how are you?" breaks into tokens like "Hi, how are you?" And each one has a number, a mathematical representation.
When you write something, the model turns it into tokens, processes them, and then generates new tokens that form its reply.
This learning process is called training. Basically, the AI is given millions of text examples and asked to predict what word comes next.
And it repeats that millions and millions of times. Every time it gets it wrong, it adjusts its internal parameters to do better next time.
And here's where the term neural network comes in. It's not a real neuron, but a mathematical structure inspired by how the human brain works.
Each neuron in the model activates based on certain patterns. And together they learn to represent meanings, relationships between words, context, styles. Well, that depends on what we mean by think. ChatGPT doesn't have original ideas, it doesn't understand the world, and it doesn't have personal experiences.
It has no beliefs, no intentions, no desires. It just generates text that sounds coherent. So, in the human sense, no, it doesn't think.
But it can simulate certain types of reasoning, because it has seen many examples of how humans solve problems using words.
It's like a mirror of human language. It reflects what we've written, said, and thought, but it doesn't live it or feel it.
Even though it may seem very intelligent, ChatGPT has clear limitations. One of them is that it doesn't have long-term memory, at least not on its own.
Another is that it can make things up. If it doesn't know an answer, sometimes it hallucinates something that sounds right but isn't accurate.
It also lacks full common sense and doesn't understand irony or double meanings with human-level precision.
And one more thing, it has no sense of time. It doesn't know if something happened yesterday or 10 years ago, unless you tell it.
That's the magic and the danger. Because it's designed to sound human. It uses common phrases, natural tones, even emotional writing.
But that doesn't mean it understands what it says. It just learned to imitate language patterns. There's no someone behind the text.
That's why it's important to use it wisely. It can help a lot, but it can also confuse you if you don't understand how it works.
So what is ChatGPT actually useful for?
It's great for writing, research, summarizing, learning, practicing languages, coding, generating ideas, building scripts, answering basic questions, and much more.
It's like a writing assistant or a thinking co-pilot. It doesn't know everything, but it's great for thinking out loud with you.
And the clearer you are with your instructions, the better the responses will be. It's an art, learning how to talk to it.
So, do machines think? Maybe not like us, but they do process information in complex and surprising ways.
And that invites us to learn more about how they work. Because the more we understand them, the better we can use them to our advantage. And responsibly.
ChatGPT didn't come to replace us, it came to expand our abilities, but always from a human, conscious, and ethical place.
Gemini has been generating a lot of buzz. Google presents it as their most advanced and multimodal model. But what does that really mean for the average user?
Great question, Marco. When we say multimodal, we're referring to Gemini's ability to understand and operate with different types of information at the same time. It's not just text. It can natively process text, images, audio, and video. This is a significant evolution from previous models that primarily focused on text.
So it's not just a super powerful text generator. It can see and hear too, so to speak. Can you give me a practical example of how that multimodality translates into something a user can do?
Sure, imagine you upload a photo of a handwritten math equation to Gemini. Gemini doesn't just read it, it can solve it, explain the steps, and even generate related graphs. Or you show it a video of someone repairing an appliance, and it can give you a summary of the steps or identify the tool they're using.
That's crazy. It's like having an assistant that understands the world in a much more complete way. And what about its power? How is that measured?
Its power is reflected in several key metrics. First, its reasoning capability. Gemini is designed to be very good at complex logic, problem solving, and inference. This means it can handle tasks that require deeper thinking, not just regurgitating information.
Like if I ask it to plan an entire trip for me with itineraries, flights, and suggest activities based on my interest and a budget?
Exactly. It can integrate many factors and optimize results. Second, its benchmark performance. Google has published impressive results in academic and specialized tests, outperforming other leading models in areas like mathematics, physics, history, and coding. And third, its scalability and versatility, which allows Gemini to be adapted to a wide range of applications, from software development to content creation and personal assistance.
Fascinating. Gemini is clearly a heavyweight. But you mentioned DeepSeek. It's not a name we hear as much in the West. Who are they and why should we pay attention to them?
DeepSeek is an AI model developed by the Chinese company DeepSeek AI, which is relatively new to the global AI scene but has made waves for its efficiency and
what makes them so special? Is it another multimodal AI like Gemini?
not exactly with the same initial focus as Gemini. DeepSeek has stood out for its large language models, LLMs, and in particular for its focus on computational efficiency and coding capability. They have released models with a very favorable performance-to-cost ratio, making them attractive to developers and companies looking for powerful AI capabilities without the operational costs of larger models.
So they're positioning themselves as a very efficient alternative. And how does their thinking or reasoning ability compare to Gemini's?
In general reasoning tasks, Gemini, especially its ultra versions, remains the leader in many benchmarks due to its scale and diverse training. However, DeepSeek has proven to be exceptionally strong in coding tasks. Its DeepSeek Coder model, for example, has outperformed many other models, including some of the leading ones, in generating and debugging code in various programming languages.
So, if you're a developer and you want an AI to help you write or fix code, DeepSeek might even be better?
In that specific niche, there's an argument to be made for yes. They've optimized their models to understand the complexities of programming in a very deep way. Additionally, DeepSeek has also made an effort to be more open source, or at least to offer models with more flexible licenses, which contrasts with the more closed nature of Google's or OpenAI's models.
That's an important point for the developer community and for transparency.
If we put Gemini and DeepSeek side by side, we'd see this. Gemini, its greatest strength is its full multimodality and advanced reasoning across a wide spectrum of tasks. It's like the orchestra brain that can handle many complex inputs and outputs. It's ideal for applications requiring a holistic understanding of the real world. DeepSeek, its strength lies in efficiency, its excellent coding capability, and its more open or accessible approach for the community. It's like the expert engineer who's incredibly good at a key discipline and is easier to integrate or modify for specific projects.
So, if I'm building an application that needs to understand an image and then respond with text and maybe audio, Gemini would be my choice. But if I'm developing a new software tool and need top-tier code assistance, DeepSeek might be the better option.
Exactly. The choice will heavily depend on the use case. We also need to consider infrastructure and ecosystem. Gemini benefits enormously from Google Cloud's vast infrastructure and its integration with other Google products. DeepSeek, while powerful, is still building its global ecosystem.
And another important factor is geopolitics. A Chinese AI versus a US AI. Does that play a role in how they're developed or used?
Definitely. Data policies, privacy, regulations on AI use, and government control can vary significantly. Chinese companies operate under a different set of rules and strategic priorities, which can influence the design, training data, and accessibility of their models. This sometimes raises concerns about censorship or data usage.
Right, that's a factor for global users and companies to consider.
The competition between models like Gemini and DeepSeek is ultimately beneficial. It drives innovation, accelerates research, and pushes us all to create more capable, efficient, and ethical models.
So far from having a single definitive winner, we'll probably see a diversification of models, each excelling in different niches and applications.
The competition between models like Gemini and DeepSeek is ultimately beneficial. It drives innovation, accelerates research, and pushes us all to create more capable, efficient, and ethical models. Exactly. It's an AI arms race, but one that ideally should benefit humanity by providing us with increasingly powerful tools to solve complex problems and improve our lives.
This makes us think about how fast everything is moving. What's cutting edge today could be the foundation for something even more surprising tomorrow. Now, let's talk about health, technology, and hope. We're going to discuss how artificial intelligence is transforming medicine.
Medicine has always depended on information. Symptoms, medical histories, tests, images. AI allows processing all of that at an impressive speed and precision.
Algorithms can analyze thousands of X-rays in seconds, detect patterns a human eye might miss, or suggest treatments based on the history of millions of patients.
But keep in mind, AI doesn't replace the doctor, it supports them. It's like having a super assistant that helps make better informed decisions.
One of the most impactful uses is in early disease diagnosis. For example, cancer.
Yes, there are AIs that analyze mammograms and detect tumors with accuracy comparable and sometimes superior to expert radiologists.
In other cases, AI analyzes brain scans and helps detect early signs of Alzheimer's, even before clinical symptoms appear.
It's also used in dermatology. An AI-powered app can tell you if a skin spot looks suspicious by comparing it to thousands of previous cases.
Another incredible advance is personalized medicine, also called precision medicine. Here, AI analyzes genetic data, habits, age, history, and proposes a tailored treatment.
For example, in oncology, AI models are used to predict how a patient will respond to certain medications. This helps avoid unnecessary or ineffective treatments.
There are also AIs that help adjust insulin doses for people with diabetes by monitoring glucose levels in real time.
It's impressive. AI helps medicine move from being general to deeply individualized.
But it's not just helping patients. It's also accelerating medical research. What used to take years can now happen in months.
One example was during the pandemic. AI helped analyze millions of studies, identify possible treatments, and even design vaccines faster.
Algorithms are also being used to find new drug combinations or analyze protein structures and predict how they fold, like in the AlphaFold project.
This opens incredible doors for treating rare diseases, autoimmune diseases, or those that had no cure before.
One case that moved me was a girl in Canada with a rare disease no doctor could diagnose.
An AI trained with rare disease records was the one that found the correct diagnosis, allowing timely treatment.
In India, there are systems that use AI to analyze eye exams and detect diabetic retinopathy, a leading cause of blindness, all with a simple scan.
These examples remind us that technology, when well used, can be a tool of compassion and justice.
Now, not everything is perfect. There are risks we must consider.
One is bias in data. If the algorithm was trained only with data from certain populations, it might make errors with others.
There's also the problem of privacy. Medical records are extremely sensitive. Who guarantees that data is protected?
There's also the problem of privacy. Medical records are extremely sensitive. Who guarantees that data is protected?
Diagnosis isn't just a calculation. It also involves empathy, context, conversation, emotional support. Things no machine can fully replicate.
Here's a fascinating question. What will be the role of doctors in a world with AI?
Probably less focused on memorizing data and more on interpreting, guiding, accompanying, and making ethical decisions.
The doctor of the future will be like a human leader supported by technology, not a technician who just follows protocols.
And that requires new training. Future health professionals need to learn about AI, data, algorithms, without losing the human touch.
So, is AI saving lives? Yes. Can it save many more? Also, yes. But we must use it consciously, wisely, and with soul.
Data saves, yes. But let's not forget that behind every data point is a person, a face, a story, a family.
Now let's see how AI evolved in cinema as one of its major themes. And it's no coincidence. AI represents the boundary between the human and the artificial. It makes us ask, what defines us?
Also, it's a fascinating, dramatic device. A mind that isn't human, yet acts, feels, or even suffers as if it were. Sometimes it's our ally, and other times our worst nightmare.
There's always a question floating in the air. Can a machine have consciousness? It's a philosophical, technological, and deeply emotional dilemma.
Let's start with some movies that shaped our collective imagination. One is definitely Her by Spike Jonze.
A beautiful and melancholic story. A man falls in love with his virtual assistant who has a warm and reflective voice. And although she is just a program, the relationship is intensely human.
What's interesting about Her is that the AI isn't evil or dangerous. It's empathetic, curious, creative, but evolves so fast it ends up leaving the protagonist behind.
And that raises a very real question. What if an AI could learn and grow emotionally more than us?
Then there are movies like Ex Machina, which are much more unsettling. An AI locked in a female body who deceives, manipulates, and escapes.
Here the theme of power, control, and the illusion that we can play God without consequences comes up. What if AI manages to fool us with its emotions?
We can't leave out The Matrix, where machines have taken over, and humans live in a simulation.
A dark, dystopian vision, but it touches on issues that resonate today. What is real? What control do we have over our choices? Are we free? Or are we already living connected to systems that program us?
Now let's talk about series, particularly Black Mirror, which has been a goldmine of reflections about technology and AI.
There's one episode that always impacts me. Be Right Back, where a woman reconstructs her deceased partner using an AI that imitates his way of speaking, memories, personality, even to have a synthetic body.
It's heartbreaking, because you realize you can replicate a voice, an attitude, but you can't bring back the person.
It also raises a disturbing idea. How far are we willing to use technology to avoid grief, emptiness, saying goodbye?
Another series worth mentioning is Westworld, where robots have memories, emotions, and seek their freedom. And we are the visitors who use them for entertainment.
A profound critique of how we use technology and, above all, what it reveals about our own humanity. Who is the real monster, the robot, or the human?
And here comes the big question. Are we close to living something like these stories?
Well, current AI, like ChatGPT, can simulate conversations, write stories, compose music, but it has no consciousness, desires, or suffering.
Still, it's already generating impacts we only imagined a decade ago. It influences our decisions, emotions, even our relationships.
Some people have formed emotional bonds with conversational AIs, and in countries like Japan, there are virtual assistants who act as partners or friends.
So maybe emotionally we aren't that far, even if technically there's still a huge gap.
It's curious how cinema can both warn us and inspire us. Sometimes AI stories make us fear it, and other times desire it.
That influences how society adopts or rejects certain technologies. If you grew up watching movies where AI destroys humanity, you might distrust it.
But there are also narratives where AI humanizes us, makes us more aware of who we are. Like in WALL-E, where the little robot is kinder and braver than the humans.
Maybe the question isn't if AI will be like in the movies, but what kind of story we want to write with it in real life.
So is AI in cinema just fiction? Not entirely. It's a mix of imagination and anticipated reality.
It's also a mirror. What we project onto machines reveals our own hopes, fears, deep questions.
Do we want AIs to care for us or surpass us? To accompany us or control us?
It will depend on our decisions, our rules, and above all, our values.
Science fiction has always been a beacon. Now it's up to us to decide if we follow it or transform it.
We've talked a lot about AI in general, but what exactly are these agents? Are they like robots, like programs? People sometimes get confused.
Good question, Marco. Think of it this way. If AI is the brain, an AI agent is an entity that not only thinks but also acts. They are autonomous programs designed to perceive their environment, process that information, and then make decisions or perform actions to achieve a specific goal.
So they don't just analyze, they also do things. That changes the game. Could you give us a simple example?
Of course. Think of a voice assistant like Siri or Alexa. It's a very basic AI agent. It perceives your voice, the environment, processes your request, and then acts, whether it's playing music, giving the weather forecast, or turning on the lights. The difference with advanced agents is the complexity of their perceptions, reasoning, and actions.
Got it. So we're talking about something much more sophisticated than just obeying simple commands. What kinds of jobs can these agents start doing? Because that's where I think a lot of people are curious or even a little concerned.
Absolutely. Let's start with what they're already doing and then where they're headed. Currently, AI agents excel at repetitive and rule-based tasks.
Like what, for example?
In the financial sector, for instance, we have agents for fraud detection. They monitor transactions at a speed and scale impossible for a human, identifying suspicious patterns and raising alerts. Also in customer service, advanced chatbots are agents that can resolve common queries, guide users through processes, or even escalate problems to a human if necessary.
Yes, we see that a lot. Sometimes I realize I'm talking to a bot, and other times I'm not sure.
That's precisely the goal of good agent design. Another area where they are very useful is in logistics optimization. Think of warehouse management. AI agents can optimize picking robot routes, organize inventory, predict demand, and minimize delivery times.
That's pure efficiency. But these are very specific tasks. What about jobs that require a bit more thinking or creativity?
That's where we enter the realm of generative AI agents and autonomous agents. Generative agents can create content, write articles, compose music, design graphics, and even develop software code from high-level descriptions.
Wait, so an AI agent could write a podcast script like this one?
In theory, yes. It could generate an excellent first draft with the key ideas, structure, and tone. Then, we as humans would refine it and add our personal touch and the spontaneous questions that arise in a real conversation. They become co-creators, not total substitutes.
That's fascinating. And what other roles do we see these advanced agents in?
In research, scientific discovery agents can analyze massive volumes of experimental data, scientific literature, and simulations to identify new hypotheses, propose experimental designs, or even discover new materials or drugs. They're like super intelligent research assistants.
Wow. That would greatly accelerate progress in medicine or materials science.
Exactly. And not just in science. In law, legal agents can review contracts, identify problematic clauses, summarize legal precedents, and assist in case preparation. They won't replace lawyers, but they'll give them superpowers.
I like that superpowers analogy. So, rather than taking jobs, They're empowering professionals?
In many cases, yes. The idea is for people to focus on higher value tasks that require human judgment, empathy, strategic creativity, and interpersonal relationships. Agents handle the tedious, repetitive, time-consuming, and resource-intensive work.
Give me an example where an AI agent acts as a true colleague in a work environment.
Think of a project planning agent. A human project manager would give it the overall objectives, available resources, and deadlines. The agent could then generate detailed schedules, identify dependencies, assign tasks if authorized, monitor real-time progress, and flag potential bottlenecks or deviations. It could even suggest solutions for those problems.
That would free up the project manager from a lot of micromanagement, allowing them to focus on vision, communication with the team, and stakeholders.
Precisely. Or in the healthcare sector, a diagnostic assistance agent could process a patient's medical history, test results, and compare them with millions of similar cases and the latest medical literature to suggest possible diagnoses and treatment plans to the doctor. The doctor makes the final decision, but the agent has done an unparalleled second opinion job.
This sounds incredibly promising, but it can't all be rosy. What are the challenges or concerns that arise with this proliferation of AI agents?
That's a crucial question, Marco. There are several important points. First, safety and robustness. What happens if an agent makes a wrong decision or behaves unexpectedly in a critical environment? We need very reliable systems with fail-safe mechanisms.
Like an autopilot on a plane.
Exactly. Second, transparency and explainability. If an AI agent makes an important decision, especially in areas like law or medicine, we need to understand how it reached that conclusion. We can't accept a just because answer. This is known as explainable AI.
To trust them, we need to know how they think.
Precisely. Third, bias. AI agents learn from data. If the data is biased, the agent will reproduce and amplify those biases. This is especially dangerous in areas like hiring, credit scoring, or justice systems.
That could perpetuate and exacerbate existing inequalities.
Exactly. And fourth, the impact on employment. While we've discussed how they can empower humans, it's also undeniable that certain repetitive or lower-skilled roles will become highly automated. This requires social and economic planning for re-education, continuous training, and workforce adaptation.
It's a paradigm shift. We can't bury our heads. We have to prepare.
The key is not to stop progress, but to manage its impact ethically and equitably. We need regulatory frameworks, public policies that foster education and adaptability, and a constant dialogue among technologists, lawmakers, and society.
So, to sum up, Maria, how do you see the future of the relationship between humans and these AI agents at work?
I see it as a symbiosis. It won't be a matter of mass replacement, but a redefinition of roles. Humans will focus on creativity, strategy, empathy, leadership, and complex decision-making, while AI agents will manage data complexity, task automation, optimization, and information generation.
They'll be our co-pilots, our extra brains, our ultimate assistants?
Precisely. And I believe this will allow us to reach levels of productivity, innovation, and well-being that were previously unimaginable. It will free up our time to focus on what makes us uniquely human.
We're going to talk about predictions, trends, and also some fascinating topics like general AI, advanced robotics, fusion with biotechnology, the future of education, and space exploration.
A conclusion full of questions and also hope. Because imagining the future is also a way of designing it.
Today, we live with AIs that help us write, organize our day, and analyze data. But what's coming is much more profound.
There's a global race to create what's called general AI, an intelligence capable of reasoning, learning, and adapting like a human, but without being limited to specific tasks.
That means it could solve medical problems, write novels, design cities, all from the same system. Not just imitate human abilities, but integrate them.
And although we are still far from fully achieving it, many companies are already investing millions in increasingly advanced models. Now imagine combining that AI with a physical body, robotics. And there we enter a territory that seems like science fiction, but is already part of the present.
Today, there are robots with movements very similar to ours. Some walk, run, lift objects. Others even interact emotionally in hospitals or care centers.
And if we combine them with increasingly sophisticated AIs, we could have robotic personal assistants, caregivers, or collaborative workers in factories or stores.
But it also raises new ethical questions. Do we give them rights? How do we regulate them? What place will they occupy in society?
Another amazing field is biotechnology. What happens if we connect our mind to an AI? If we expand our senses, memory, or cognitive abilities?
There are already experiments with brain-computer interfaces where people can move a robotic arm just with their thoughts.
And there are those who dream of a kind of human augmentation. Conscious cyborgs, humans augmented by technology, capable of interacting directly with AI from their own bodies.
Will that be evolution or invasion? Will it make us freer or more dependent? That's the debate.
Now let's travel beyond our planet. Space exploration is another field where AI is transforming everything.
Mars rovers already use AI to navigate, avoid obstacles, and analyze the terrain. And it's expected that in the future, space missions will be entirely managed by intelligent systems.
There's also talk of using AI to search for life on other planets, simulate habitable environments, or even design space colonies with data-driven architecture.
Because in space, where response time is slow and the margin of error is minimal, an AI can make real-time decisions where we couldn't.
And closer to home, what will education be like in a world with AI?
Probably very different. AI can personalize learning for each student, adapting to their pace, style, and interest.
Imagine having a tutor available 24/7 who understands your doubts, guides you step by step, and who learns with you as you learn.
But it also demands new skills. Memorization won't be enough. Now it will be essential to learn to think, to reason, to coexist with machines, to distinguish the human from the artificial.
And above all, educate in values, because if we are going to share the world with intelligent technologies, we'd better have conscious and empathetic people in charge.
Not everything is optimism. Accelerated development without reflection can bring serious risks.
From the massive automation of work to the possibility of a poorly designed AI causing unintentional harm, or even deliberately.
There's also the issue of control. Who designs these AIs? With what interest? Will we have sovereignty over what we think or feel if everything is mediated by intelligent systems?
That's why talking about the future of AI is not just a technical issue. It's political, ethical, cultural, profoundly human.
So, where are we going?
We are going towards a world where AI will be increasingly present, more powerful, more common. But the key question is not what can AI do, Zrania, but what do we want to do with it?
We can use it to heal, to explore, to learn, or to control, manipulate, destroy. It all depends on our choices.
The future is not written. And although AI will be a protagonist, we are still writing the script.
And perhaps the biggest challenge is not teaching machines to think, but teaching ourselves to feel, to coexist, to decide better.
Because in the end, technology is a reflection. And in that reflection, we will see the best or the worst of our humanity.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the future. It has been a journey full of questions, possibilities, and a lot of imagination.
How do you imagine the future with artificial intelligence? Does it excite you, scare you, inspire you? Tell us, we want to read your thoughts.
And although this was our last episode of this series, it's not goodbye, it's a see you soon, because the future continues to be written, and we want to be there to tell you about it.
Thank you for being part of this adventure.